Shamangelic Healing Podcast is designed as a platform to share authentic conversations about real life issues, providing you with valuable resources and tools to support you in shining your most authentic self, creating a thriving life that you absolutely love, and to support you in manifesting your soul's mission. Welcome to the Shamangelic Healing Podcast with your hostess, Anahata Ananda, certified high performance coach, soul guide for empowerment and awakening. And oh, you are going to love this today. We have Colin Guinn, and we're going to dive into exploring all about ADHD and ADD and how to really create a thriving, abundant life, and what challenges and amplifies this experience, and what makes it better, what makes it worse. We talk about addiction and healing, and this is for everybody that is kind of just on this path of awakening. I know you're going to love it. Be sure to check out the show notes for free gifts and the promotions that both Colin and I are going to be offering to you today. If you love it, please like it, share it, give us a rave review so we can bring these messages out to other people. So let's dive into learning all about how to really embrace ADHD and live a thriving life. Welcome to the Shamangelic Healing Podcast. I'm so excited to dive in with Colin Guinn. And really, I think you're such a role model of how to be functioning successfully and creating a thriving life, which with this diagnosis decades ago of ADHD. And you came to Sedona and we had this beautiful private session about this, and it was just so powerful because I know so many people are dealing with this issue, whether they're children or they're adults, parents that are having their children deal with this, or functioning or not so functioning adults are dealing with this, and we just thought it would be really powerful to do a podcast together about this issue. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
it'll be exciting there's so many things that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Over the years, but this is one that I haven't really talked about much. So
right.
This will be fun to see what comes out.
Right. In our session, you shared so much around the vulnerability and the challenge and the pain that you went through with this diagnosis and with this, personal challenge. And I've seen you become such a functioning, successful, amazing adult. And I think a lot of people are having this diagnosis as that there's something wrong and that they need to be broken and need to be fixed. And so tell me first what is ADHD and how did you experience that? Like what are the symptoms that create, is that different from something else? Like what is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, diagnosed with ADHD, and if that means extreme hyperactivity, bouncing off the walls, I've seen home videos of myself from
was accurate.
At the end of the year, swimming party after my first grade year. I had a home video. I can't find it lately. It's if I find it, I will give it to you. It's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm watching myself going, wow.
How old was that?
I guess 6.
Yeah, first grade, 6, 7, yeah.
And it was the first day of summer after first grade. And, we have 7 and 12-year-old boys now. And I mean, it's another level.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my face is contorting. I'm so excited. And I can't look straight. I mean, I'm I was oh.
Attention deficit, hyperactivity, yeah. This is different. Something else is going on.
Yeah.
And you don't know, you're just being you.
I
right?
just was super stoked all the time.
And really energized.
Yeah.
And so.
And I think there is I'll throw a little anecdote in here. I think there is an aspect of not really paying attention to what you're doing. The hyperactivity part was clear. It was extreme amounts of energy coursing through my body that I don't know if I didn't know what to do with it. But the attention deficit part is interesting. I'll tell you a quick story. In 3rd grade, and probably my favorite teacher I ever had was my 3rd grade teacher. Galen Hofstad. I love you so much if you're watching.
Shout out to the teachers.
And she got Teacher of the Year in Corpus Christi, Texas that year. I mean, it was an amazing teacher. But I used to, every time I'd walk the halls of this school, outdoors was brick walls, I would always just like drag a pencil or like drag something and hear the clicking. And I'm always like doing weird patterns with my fingers. And sometimes I'll start doing these patterns or these little tick habits and be like, I don't think I'm going to ever be able to stop doing this. You know what I mean? And but one time I was like dragging a paperclip along the brick wall, you know, walking to wherever. And then as I start walking through the parking lot, I'm dragging the paperclip along the cars in the parking lot. And I actually I have very few memories of that early in my life, but I have a memory of this. And, you know, one of the cars that I drug the paperclip across was Miss Hofstad's, you know, car. I don't know what car she drives, you know, but I remember, you know, my parents and teachers at the time, you know, just being like, why would you do this? Why would you scratch, you know, Miss Hofstad's? She loves you so much. Like you're, you know, and I mean, I would go to the office every day just from being super hyper and just not
Getting in trouble
all the time. And so I remember getting in so much trouble and just remember thinking like, man, that was dumb. Like I wasn't even thinking, like I was just dragging along the brick wall and dragging along the cars and then dragging along the trees. And, you know, and so that's just not paying attention, you know, and sometimes I see that behavior exhibited in our younger son. And he's just like not into following rules, but he's just totally happy-go-lucky about it. And he's like, but I love you and no thanks, you know. Whereas our older son is just I can see that he has like a little bit more awareness. He's like paying attention, you know, a little bit more.
Cultivating that level of awareness that my actions have an impact is a more, you know, a more evolved, more mature thing. How was it like growing up with that, you know, so when were you actually diagnosed with that?
I mean, before I can remember.
Okay, so
probably 4 years old or so, 5 years old, I don't know.
How did that feel growing up with this belief that, you know, you have some disorder or some problem with yourself?
You know, I think one of the tough parts, and so I think I was taking Ritalin since before I can remember.
So you were on Ritalin before you went into grade school?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think, for sure, like by first grade.
Yeah, wow.
And I remember there would just kind of always be this thing. I remember not feeling any different on or off of it. And I was like, what does this even do? Like, what is this stupid pill? But I remember like the kind of consensus amongst my family and close friends and stuff like that was like just the amount of times I would hear, Colin hasn't had his medicine yet. Colin needs his medicine. Look at him. Colin needs his medicine. You know what I mean? Like Colin hasn't taken his pills yet. And so I think, and it didn't happen until way, way later, you know, an experience Christy and I had where I was like, oh, wow. Like there was definitely like this, you know, probably core belief or something like that was instilled at that time that like me as I wasn't acceptable.
Yeah.
Or didn't fit into this structure. And therefore I needed this pill every day to like make me tolerable, you know, which is like probably not inaccurate because again, I saw the videos. So it's you know, man, as a parent, it's like, it's tough. You know, I really can empathize with my parents and, you know, how difficult it must have been.
Well, I mean, I don't know that any of us are equipped to know how to deal with something like that. And so Ritalin, you know, was or is and still is in many cases the option to kind of, you know, what does it do? You know, I mean, that's the go-to to try to fix this, but what does that do? What does Ritalin do to someone's energy, psychology? You know, what does it do?
You know, it allows people to focus on what they're doing, right? Which I guess is why so many college kids use Ritalin to cram for tests and things like that. Or if, you know, and actually it's like rampantly used in the professional world. If you have a big project due or whatever, you can, you know, people are popping Ritalins and just working 7-8 hours straight and cranking out 3 days of work. So it is whatever is in Adderall, Ritalin, you know, whatever. It's like, I'm not exactly sure what they're doing with the brain chemistry, but, you know, it creates a state of intense focus. And so I think it can take a kid who is just having such a hard time, kind of just being here now, kind of focus on what they're doing. And I'm sure it does produce those results, but there's a lot of, negative byproduct that can come from that as well.
What negative byproducts did you experience?
Personally, I don't know how much negative byproduct I experienced from the actual drug. I stopped taking it. I was sent to military school when I was 11 in Kansas. And I remember I was still taking it there. That was 6th grade. But by the time I left military school in 8th grade, I stopped taking it. I wasn't taking it anymore.
And that was your choice?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. And my dad said, hey, you don't want to take it anymore? Don't take it anymore. And for whatever reason, within the structure of military school, which was an incredible amount of structure.
And focus, like you don't get the chance to deviate.
That's right.
Right.
And there's dire consequences if you're not paying attention. And when I went to military school, as difficult as it was, and I'm sure there's some residual traumas and things like that from getting beat up all the time and told your mom doesn't love you, why else would she send you here as an 11-year-old kid? Like, there's some difficulty that came with that, but probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And within that structured system, I actually excelled and did very well at military school and was, top ranks in my class. Grades were straight A's. And so I guess maybe a year into that, maybe my dad was like, no, you don't want to take Ritalin anymore, don't do it. My dad was a doctor, internal medicine doctor. So.
And so military school, with somebody with that who is kind of like all over the place, what I'm hearing is that some structure was actually really necessary to help contain your energy, although, because you could certainly rebel against that, or you could direct your energy and say, okay, let me figure out how to move my focus and my energy in this system.
That's a really good point that you bring up, because there was a lot of kids that rebelled hard in military school, and it was like, I'm just going full anarchy and I'll get kicked out of here. And, that became a whole drama triangle where it's like, we exist for kids like you. And no, you're not going to get kicked out. Yeah. Good luck. I think 40% of our student body was state sent, And,
when you mean state sent, you mean?
You're either going to juvenile hall or juvenile detention center, or you're going to this military school. So they were kids from Kansas that, had been sent,
troubled in some way.
Yeah, or just did something that was either going to land them in juvenile hall or get, go to this military school. So it was they could handle that type of thing. And what was interesting about me with military school, my dad made it seem like it was my choice.
Brilliant.
He, like me, is a great salesman. And the summer between my 5th and 6th grade year basically presented me with this option to, what I heard at the time was go to G.I. Joe camp.
Cool.
As a school.
Yeah, you're like, yay!
I just remember asking, will there be an obstacle course?
Yeah.
Will they time us? Are there timed obstacle courses?
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm like, sign me up. This sounds awesome.
Because you had a lot of physical energy, and I think one of the things that worked for you is to be able to apply your physical energy and excel.
Yes.
That kind of supported you.
That's right. That's right. And so while it was tough, I never had like the hard rebellion, to it. And I felt like at least I made the decision to go.
It sounds like some structure with this kind of mind that's all over the place is to be able to focus is really, and having some structure is really valuable. And I know that with a lot of my clients that are dealing with that with their children, they're kind of feeling like, well, no structure is better because this structure doesn't fit my son or daughter. And so where is this balance of too much structure and not enough with somebody that is working with this operating system that is different than most people? And I don't think it is at all a limitation. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of understanding, okay, I operate a little differently. What's the right environment that supports this different operating system? And too much structure and sit still in class doesn't necessarily fit, but if you don't have any structure, then you don't have a place to direct this energy and mental focus.
Yep. I think, so that's a great question that I definitely don't know the answer to, but I can throw out, one of the things I noticed as a kid was, and even now as an adult, when I get into something, I'll go really deep on it. whether it's drones or technology or whatever, like I'll get really, really into it. And so I think there's a certain amount of structure that can be really self, kind of created by the child, if it's something that they're really passionate about.
It sounds like that's the key, is because what you just said about going deep doesn't seem like there's any lack of mental focus there.
Nope.
I imagine that, and then for all of us, when we're in that passionate place, mental focus is actually at all not a problem. You'll go and go and go, and that's the part of our creativity that gets to be expressed.
Yes.
And so what I'm hearing is is finding that place where your mind loves to focus, that topic, that subject, that
and it might
industry.
Be ever-changing.
Yeah.
It may only last for a month or a few
and that's
weeks,
okay.
But I think help the kids figure out, what is it that you're into, and so it's so easy for me as a parent to be like, oh yeah, sit on your iPad and play on your iPad, because they're great at taking focus, because they're unlimited options and they are
all constant
very
challenge,
engaging, and that becomes kind of the easy route. But what I find myself making sure of and keeping ourselves in check about as a parent is like, find some things. Like, turns out Cruz loves building Legos.
Yeah.
He'll sit and build Legos for hours, and so it's just find what are those things, and they're going to be constantly changing as the kids evolve. But find those things that they're naturally drawn to.
And not just electronic, not just video games, but also something where they're involved in the process of building something, creating something that challenges them, that gets them to think.
Yep.
For my son, it was rock climbing. I realized, wow, he doesn't want to do this and he doesn't want to do that. He really likes this, and it makes him focus, and he has to be present, and it stretches him and it challenges him. And yes, I could have said, yeah, you could be on your phone doing electronics all the time, and I was like, kept inviting him to follow and find a passion that creates that same level of engagement, but not in fantasy world, but in reality world, so that they're building skills that actually apply in a real world.
That's right. Not that skills on
absolutely
don't apply in the real world,
right.
But we know they're going to get plenty of that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So as much as our kids love their devices, as much as Cruz loves his device, if I say, hey, you want to play poker? Immediately he'll drop his device. Like, we've been playing family Texas Hold'em,
right? And
he just loves it,
right?
And he'll play for hours,
or some tag game or something that's interactive. Yeah. Okay. What in your journey of figuring out what helps you focus and what lifestyle wise, what have you discovered over the decades makes it worse and makes it better? Like, what have you had to step away from? Because I really do feel like there's a different operating system, and that trying to fit that into mainstream lifestyle doesn't always work for this, for this experience that you're having. And so what have you determined along the way? And this is for adults, children, and parents that are trying to figure out, how do I support this person in my life, whether it's an adult or a child or themselves? What makes it worse in your experience, and what makes it better? What helps you?
We'll kind of skip over the, becoming somewhat self-aware and being able to
well, let's not skip over
have awareness of that. When we can get to that or whatever, but the direct answer to your question of what supports it is structure and daily habits that support me and that support my well-being, right? And that is for me, finding the 80-20 rule across diet, sleep, the right work-life balance, not getting too sucked in to work, exercise, getting in the water, doing things that allow me to get those adrenaline spikes that I grew up as an adrenaline junkie, meditation practice, I would say is probably the highest ROI, 10 minutes to 15 minutes a day, that I would recommend to anyone.
What does that do for you, meditation?
I think initially what it did for me was allow me to practice bringing my system down a little bit. If I'm not aware, I have a tendency to start getting up here and start doing that, and it allows me to in a highly stressful situation, whether that's in a business meeting or that's trying to do some crazy challenge on The Amazing Race, like it allows me to quickly get from kind of high beta into alpha because you practice it on a daily basis. And it used to be that maybe I wouldn't achieve that state at all in 15 minutes. But if you meditate daily, you get to a point where take a few deep breaths and you can basically drop right in, and you can see this with, ECG feedback.
Right. Well, and that sounds very different than bouncing off the walls all over the place. That ability to move into stillness and into quiet sounds like for somebody that can't sit still, that was scattered and like frenetic and all over the place, that's a pretty powerful tool to bring someone into stillness. And I'm sure like at 6, bouncing off the walls, maybe that wasn't accessible to sit still. And now as an adult, you're recognizing that the value.
Kids meditation app.
There you go.
Maybe they already have them.
Okay. See, this is, those of you listening.
To get kids to meditate for 5 to 10 minutes a day with some kind of gamification or something like that. Trick them into meditating.
Okay, see,
they're playing a
right?
game, but
You
really
understand, right? They're learning how to calm themselves. This is, for those watching and listening, this is the mind of somebody that we don't want to dumb down. I find that, with my clients that are dealing with this, and you helped me to see this in our session, was like, there isn't anything wrong. This creative ability to, download new paradigm ideas is not coming from the box. It's coming from outside of the box. And I think, people with this, experience rather than condition or disability have the ability when they're in the right environment to be able to create. And, you tend to be the inventors, which you are. You're an inventor. And this is one of the things that I think has provided this success for you, is that you're able to, think outside of the box and not think that you have to do it this way.
Yep.
And that within that groundedness and structure, you can have these wonderful ideas and also ground them into reality. So you can have this idea of a drone, of a flying camera, which you created.
We didn't create the flying camera, but we made it more accessible.
Exactly.
We productized it.
Yeah. And so somebody that doesn't know how to focus can't do that, but somebody that doesn't have the grounding and structure can do that, but somebody that is living inside the box can't conceive of that. Yep. And so in the right environment with the right support, someone like you become the inventors.
That's right. And it takes a tribe, right? It takes a village to make a product.
Yeah.
You have the kind of visionary, wouldn't it be cool if, oh man, I'm the customer for this thing, and if I had something that could do this, I'd be all over it. And I know these other people would too. And oh, you know how we could solve that problem is by doing this, that, and the other. But it's I'm not going to sit down and write all the code to make that happen.
And you don't have to.
That's right. And that's why having everybody be able to bring to the table their superpower, that's where you build organizations where if you can support each person bringing the thing that they love to do and can bring the most value, and everyone's contributing to a manifestation of an idea, which is what we're doing now, which is really fun. Right.
And I've been to your company, Guinn Partners, and I love it because the environment isn't this tight little box. Mm-hmm. The work environment I think you've created to be allowing creativity, downtime, playtime. There's a slack line, there's games outside, there's paddleboarding. And so you've actually created an environment that is still highly productive, but also values, you can take that call outside.
On the slack line.
On the slack line. You can take a break and go paddleboard and then come back and be more refreshed and more creative. And I feel like you have worked your life around your abilities, which I don't think are disabilities. I think they're very much abilities, and created an environment that fits who you are, and also acknowledges that, hey, let me be the inspiration, let me be that visionary, and I don't have to write the code, and know that there's other people whose matrix, whose operating system is I love code, and that's what I live for. And so it sounds like there's also this understanding of how you function and how you work, and to honor that and to build your life around it. Mm-hmm. So what did you have to let go of, or what structures didn't work, that didn't really fit you, that were kind of squashing who you actually are and your creativity and abundance?
Well, I think I'm not sure on that one. I really haven't ever had a real job. At one point where I was starting this business in California, and the thing didn't work out. I lost all my money. We had to come back to Texas with our tail between our legs, and I got some job selling online job listings or something like that for a handful of months, and was immediately fired because it would require just sitting and calling people all day long, and that just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But so I think I've always thought outside the box in terms of earning income. Why do I have to do it that way? I can just do this, or I can just sell that, or but I notice and maybe this came with the ADD and kind of in concert with the lack of paying attention. I had a real lack of paying attention to myself and how I was being, or how I was feeling so justified. And this is doing The Amazing Race 15 years ago, I was one of the big villains of reality TV, because I would have these blow-ups. And, the ironic thing was the people that ran the race with us 15 years ago, when they watched this race, they're like, I don't get it. You're the same guy that you were then. And I'm like, yeah, well, you saw the whole picture, but what I've been able to kind of strip away from back then to now is the moments when that really heightened energy became, I'm trying to get this task done and you're telling me what to do, and now I'm feeling super, persecuted and victimized, and I'm going to look so right when this airs, and I have every right to be blowing up right now. So I had this really, short fuse and kind of volatile temper. And I think that was really difficult for Christy for many years, because most of the time I was super high vibing, happy-go-lucky, totally loving. And then I would just blow up at any moment, and then I was just totally fine again. And my whole life, my parents, everyone knows of me, I just don't hold a grudge. In fact, I just don't even really remember things. I really have a hard time, for whatever reason, maybe it's a lot of concussions or something. I'll meet people, I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. They're like, we spent a weekend together.
And we've met 10
house.
times.
We're
related.
Literally. And so, but I think that is the kind of shadow aspect of not having that any attention to self. And so as I learned to kind of, as I had many different experiences that allowed me to examine myself and look inward, the first time being watching The Amazing Race air 6 months after we had shot it. And I remember in these different moments where Chrissy's like, you are not going to look good.
Check that.
And I'm like, oh, you're so wrong. You're not going to look good. I'm going to look totally justified. And I'm going to be so vindicated. And I'm going to tell Chrissy, told you so, when this airs. And I remember thinking that, and then watching it air and being like, oh. No, bro, you are not right. You are wrong, bro. And so that was the first time getting a window into how it looks when I go unconscious and when I lose my temper, right, and when I lose all awareness of myself. And it allowed me to kind of go, okay, there's definitely a disconnect there.
Right. And what impact
we'll
that
has.
This in
about 7 years.
Yeah. And what impact that has, when you blow up or you go into that, wow, it can it can affect my business relationships. It can affect my intimacy.
It can leave a wake. That's a destruction wake.
And then that's when our businesses don't thrive. That's right. That's when our relationships are having challenges. And so what I'm hearing is part of the journey of coming into rightness. And this isn't just with ADHD or ADD, but the journey of being willing to swallow the medicine of humility, and to take that pill that, wow, I might have a blind spot here. Mm-hmm. I might need to evolve. There might be time for me to learn a new tool or a new skill or address this, why there's anger inside and why I'm blowing up. And it sounds like that's a big part of this journey, becoming functional, whether you have this, you're experiencing ADHD or not. For all of us, that willingness to take the medicine of humility and self-inquiry and seeing the experiences in our life as the reflection, as a classroom that are trying to show me something that needs to evolve, heal, or be seen, or be accountable for. And yes, you and Christy did win the amazing race. Check out that episode, by the way, because we did a podcast on how that evolved for you. But as it relates here, you mentioned meditation as being something that helps, and sleep also. What else, diet-wise or lifestyle-wise, has helped you cope and besides like the awareness, like in lifestyle, that people might be doing and not realizing that it's amplifying these effects and making it harder for them?
Yeah, I feel like, so if I take it kind of zoom out, the way I normally will see it is, we're kind of a lot like robots. We have sensors and actuators and a logic making, system, or CPU. And, I feel like I've been able to notice in my life when I'm feeling really good and I'm feeling a state of enthusiasm and gratitude, when I'm in that place, things work out really well. And things seem to flow, things fall into place, things just kind of are easy and almost just kind of solve themselves, right? And I've been able to witness that enough that at some point I was like, okay, so maybe what I need to do is just focus on doing the things that keep me feeling good, right? And my cycle, my habit is to do all of the things that make me feel good, and promote a high frequency of vibration. And then everything starts totally falling into place. But now there's so much opportunity. There's so many things I can focus on. There's so, and then I'm kind of like, I don't need to meditate today. I can get 5 hours of sleep tonight because this is awesome. This is great. Give that 4 or 5 days. And next thing you know, I'm in traffic in my mind, having road rage, which I used to just be like, Mr. Road rage, right? So there's areas where I'll notice it come in and I can be like, what are you? And I'm like, oh, there's that. Huh. Oh, I haven't meditated in 4 or 5 days. I've been eating sugar.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I haven't been doing the things that support my vibratory state. And I have to constantly remind myself, quit giving yourself so much credit. I like to give myself so much credit that I get to just decide to feel good. Oh, I made it. I feel good. I got it. I see how that works. If I feel good, things work out, so I'm just going to feel good.
Colin didn't take his meditation. Colin didn't take his meditation.
Colin didn't take his meditation today. It's like, quit giving yourself so much credit. Just do the things that support you, right, and watch the magic unfold.
I appreciate that, level of awareness to acknowledge that, mood and vibration is a direct correlation to our lifestyle habits, and where we're slipping, it's trying to show us that if you're in rage, whether that's in the family room, whether that's on the freeway, whether that's in the bedroom, with your relationship, or in life, or at life, or if you're in this place of pain and sedating, with sugar or alcohol or whatever else, there's so many things to choose from, that it's an indication something's not quite right. Yep. And it's like, well, what is my medicine or lack of medicine that is creating this experience, whether it's meditation or self-reflection or getting better sleep. This is a journey for all of us to be able to come to say, where am I not focusing? And I'm busy in the phone distracting when I'm not really focusing on my own healing or my own passions or my own personal, or my own growth or development. And I think those are the questions to kind of help all of us. And I appreciate that you are acknowledging, sugar in all of this. So I was super hyper as a kid, super hyper, and wasn't diagnosed or anything like that, but I was definitely had tons of energy, and my parents just like threw me into gymnastics. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll just do this for 25 hours. And yep. But what happens, someone that is that hyper runs through fuel really fast. And so I remember my sugar addiction happened during that time, because now I'm moving a lot of this energy and everybody else is eating 3 meals and I need like 6. And so I was going to sugar for quick fixes between that, because someone that's hyperactive is burning a lot of calories. And so how explain for us a little bit about your dance with sugar. That may still be happening.
I was literally just eating some candy.
Okay.
So,
like I say, I understand that. We're still having the cha-cha.
Definitely still happening. It's my relationship with sugar is really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I'm definitely still addicted to sugar. I've never drank alcohol.
Which, when you said that to me at first, that blew me away, because I think people with in your situation,
Very addictive
personality.
And I know that.
Right.
And so I was able to like dodge a bullet on that one.
Well, because I think a lot of people, out of not feeling like they fit in and not feeling like, and feeling like there's something wrong with them, or trying to face being, a square peg in a round hole, are going to turn to sedating, whether that's sugar or alcohol or many other, more intense sedating substances. And I think that that's where a lot of people, kind of great minds and great souls, get lost in that vacuum. And so that is really surprising to me that alcohol hasn't really, you haven't had that dance with that. But, let's talk about
the sugar.
The shug.
Yeah.
The white
I think
stuff.
My early memories of it are like, I was probably pre-military school. I was pretty much always in trouble. I was either in the process of being in trouble for something, getting in trouble for something, or I was still in trouble from the day before. I was pretty much always in trouble. And I felt like I was always getting yelled at. And to me, I was just kind of like, what's the problem? I was just doing my thing. Like, what, I just, whatever. But sugar was so comforting. And I was also like not allowed to have any sugar whatsoever. It was highly regulated. We couldn't have any cereal that sugar was the first 3 ingredients. I mean, like apples were regulated to me, by my parents.
Because with someone with ADHD, like in hyperactivity, like sugar just kind of amplifies the cray craziness.
So any chance I could to get my hands on sugar, and I remember I got kicked out of first grade, I got kicked out of second grade, and then was on my third school for third grade. And, but at this school, there was a little candy shop right next to the school that if I ran super fast and ran in, I could buy a bunch of candy and then go make the bus and still take my bus home. And every day I had a little paper bag full of runts and gummies
exactly.
all my candies. And then when I would get yelled at for whatever I was getting yelled at for at home, I could just go up to my room and eat my sugar, and it just tasted so good. And it was like the one thing I had.
Right, and it like so emotionally is like an emotional teddy bear.
Yes.
I know, like at 12 when like a lot was
happening. It tastes so
I know,
good.
like you do get a contact high from sugar. Like it is immediate. And then there's the sugar drop, too. And so I want to acknowledge that, the brown bag.
Mm-hmm. I've heard you tell you at a retreat. I was like, I'm with you, sister.
So let me share those stories. It's like when I was on a cleansing, fasting retreat in Thailand, the woman doing iridology, was looking at my eyes and she kind of puts her notebook down and she said, I'm just going to ask one question for today. What is it with you and sugar? The same question I just asked for you. What is it with you and sugar? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it immediately flashed, Colin, to the brown bag.
Yeah.
My stash was at 12 when I had my paper route and I had my own money finally.
Yes.
Okay, I know the paper route ends here and the 7-Eleven, the convenience store is there, and I can get a lot for my $2. And I mean, like a bag full of candy. And it was stashed under my bed where nobody could find it. And I realized that's the behavior of an addict. To covet, to hide, to be ashamed. Like, I don't want my dad to find it. I don't want my mom to know about this. And if anybody finds it, if anyone tries to take it, and here comes the growl and the clench and the claws of like, you take that away from me. And it's going to bring out the dragon.
Yeah.
And I felt that way years later with alcohol. If someone was going to try to take the last Cosmopolitan out of my hand, I'm sure I'd be in jail right now. I'm not kidding.
Yep.
You know, and so we all have these things. Some are just more socially acceptable.
That's right.
Acceptable.
That's it.
Sugar is one of those that, oh, well, everybody has that.
It makes it so hard to get off of.
Right.
It's everywhere. It's in everything, or so many things.
Right, and it's rewarded, and it's, you know, oh, if you do well, you get a treat, and if you don't, it's taken away. It's actually woven quite in power play, and you know, you get chocolates when you love somebody, all of these different things. And so unraveling that addiction has been, it's got its tendrils in lots of places, and early on, it's for most of us, one of our first addictions is to you know, sugar. It's the one that we tend to have at the beginning. And so what do you notice energetically now that you're a lot more aware and sensitive when you know you've crossed that line with too much sugar? How does that affect you? What does it look like?
Yeah, I can just, so what I did with my relationship with sugar to like try and get it to a place of moderation,
Manageable.
you know, was, for whatever reason, I burn through calories really quickly, and I do a lot of activity, so I was always in really good shape. And so it was never like, oh, stop eating candy so you can look better in swimsuit season. And so I was like, okay, go ahead and eat the sugar. You can do it anytime you want, but ask yourself 2 questions. Promise to ask yourself 2 questions. Was there something that just happened recently that was out of the norm, maybe caused a little extra stress, whatever, relationship, work, kids?
Like an emotional trigger.
Yeah,
or something
that just heightened your stress level a little bit. Did something just happen, and is that maybe related?
Could be.
And
Good
2,
question.
yeah, I didn't even have to ask myself that. Just, did something happen recently? And then the other thing I had to promise myself was, after you indulge in the sugar, just check in 30 minutes later and ask yourself, how are you feeling? Are you feeling better than you were feeling in your body? Like, does your body feel better 30 minutes later, or does it not?
Yeah.
Or do you feel the same? Just ask yourself those 2 questions. And that drastically reduced my sugar. It has trained me to realize that pretty much every time I want to go for the sugar, it's either just like the unconscious draw that like exists in this moment. I would love to be eating candy. Like, it's always there. That I'm pretty much have been able to cope with and figure out. But it's when there's like a stress response, or Chrissy and I have a heightened sense, or we get in a little argument, or, you know, something's going on with a client at work or something like that. And I'm just like, and I'll feel myself like, I want to go eat some candy, you know? And what I noticed was that was always the case. And that it was always the case that after enjoying it for 5 minutes, 30 minutes later, and for probably a couple of hours, I had lowered energy, felt more lethargic, just kind of like, just didn't feel good in my body. And I would at least train myself to realize that. And so now it's not like I have no sugar ever, but it's like, okay, recognize, I wonder what caused this. Okay, it's probably that. All right, like, I can now consciously decide, nah, I don't need any sugar right now, or okay, I'm gonna let myself have a little, you know, but
Moderation.
not so much that it's gonna make me crash later.
And I think that's for everybody. What you're walking us through right now is the process of addiction, whether that's reaching for candy, or whether that's reaching for a drink, whether that's reaching for a smoke, whether that's reaching for the iPhone,
Yes.
you know, or sex or pornography or any addiction, because we all have them, whether we acknowledge it or not. And the awareness to say, what has happened right before the claw wants to come out and grab the thing?
Yep.
And is there another way? Is there something else that I can, in this moment, you know, inquiry?
If I can go do some physical activity or something really fun,
Right.
that also checks the box for me.
Right. And, you know, like, is there an emotional thing I need to look at here? Like, what is, like, if I'm triggered, instead of sedating or avoiding, where's the opportunity to actually move towards that discomfort instead of sedate it or distract it, and sit with it, which is so valuable, not just, but, you know, because that tends to be with the ADHD of like, I don't want to focus, I want to avoid, you know, I want to bounce off the walls, I want to do all of this thing, and the courage for any of us to actually sit with it.
Yep.
and feel it and rise above it, and not let the addiction or the distraction or moving the energy outward to be, keeping us from really the medicine of the inner work.
That's right.
And
that's been a big tactic for me, is just saying, okay, sure, you can have some, but sit for 5 minutes in stillness and just feel whatever you're feeling right now. And 8 times out of 10, 5 minutes of just sitting still, and you're like, I don't really need it. I'm okay. Once I can get my nervous system to just calm down a little bit.
And I like to see, like, can I be okay without this? Mm-hmm. And that tells me whether or not I have power over it, or it has power over me. If I can't say no, then I know that I actually don't have control here, and that I might need some help, whether that's with alcohol or
some check.
And the dance with me with sugar is like, it has been, now I have a year or two more under my belt. Okay, maybe a little more than that.
Months.
Okay. And that I've been, my physical body, my adrenal glands, my hormonal system, my bones, like a lot of my systems are now paying the price of 5 decades. Okay, not exactly, okay, maybe 5 decades, okay, whatever, some decades of dancing, of having a romance, as I call it, with sugar. And that it actually, I've been able to be like, in those younger years, I was able to be in denial about actually the detrimental effects that it's having on my emotional body and definitely my physical body. And I'm now like really paying the price for that. And so I'm just...
Sweet, thank you for that.
You're welcome. And, we're all going to be in check with our behavior, with our addictions, with our denials. We're all going to be in check. So I hear that one of those things that maybe isn't so fantastic for somebody with this situation with ADHD is sugar. What else is really, makes it worse, do you think? Or have you found in your discovery?
Too much caffeine.
Mm-hmm. You already have enough energy, right?
Yeah, my guess is probably, most of those stimulants.
Yeah.
Like I try to really regulate my caffeine.
Yeah.
A little bit in the morning, and lately I've been kind of trying to do no caffeine after 10 a.m.
Yeah.
If I have caffeine lunch or later, it's hard for me to sleep at night.
Yeah. And sleep's really important.
Sleep is very important to me. It really supports me.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know what else is, my guess is stimulants and things that are causing numbing or distraction, just kind of any little dopamine hit type behaviors. Addictions to social media,
electronics,
like
what advice, now that you're a parent and you're able to look back on your experience, for the parents listening or watching, or people that have a loved one dealing with this, what advice would you have for people, to help them to relate differently or better or more supportive for somebody, for a loved one, a child or relative that's going through, or a partner that is, dancing with ADHD?
Yeah, that's, a great question. And I wouldn't even presume to, be able to point to anything there. If I were to say something, it would, from my own experience, it's probably just making sure that the person that you're dealing with knows that they're loved, and that anything that you can do, and we can only do that for ourselves. And that was my journey, was all my blow-ups and everything. It really all boiled down to like, am I doing that to myself? Am I blowing up on myself? And am I letting myself off the hook? But anything I think that we can do as parents to make sure that our kids know that, they're perfect. You're perfect. And I'm going to celebrate all the ways in which this characteristic of yourself or your being manifests in beauty. And I'm gonna celebrate those things a lot more than I'm gonna take out my own stress on my children when they make it difficult for me to manage them or whatever. And that's where I'll find, that's another area, being in traffic and being dad to like 2 boys that are at it, fighting with each other, whatever. I can notice how if I'm tuned to a higher frequency, that looks like two puppies playing with each other. And I think it's super cute. If I'm tuned to channel 3, that looks like two kids that are fighting with each other, driving me freaking crazy, and you better shut up and stop that right now. And when I hear that in internal voice, that's my indication, like, you know, am I doing all the things that, like, my system is overtaxed, you know, and it's bringing my vibes down. But to me, it's just, I just want my kids to know, like, and it's not just you guys, everyone, we are all perfect.
There's nothing wrong with you.
We're all perfect just the way we are, and we can all use a little work.
I think that's really valuable, you know, as a parent, to be able to say, you know, there's nothing wrong with you, and find your own tune.
That's right.
You know, find your tune. It's going to be different than your brother. It's going to be different than everybody else.
Superpowers and kryptonite.
For sure.
You know, and if you can just learn to work with that, that's great. But it's not a reflection of who you are as a being.
Right.
You know.
Well, and also it invites parents. And, you know, I'm a parent as well, and I realized, wow, what is convenient is if my kids do this, and if they behave, and if it's like this, and when it's not convenient,
so much easier for me.
I know, if you would just behave, and it's like, and I noticed that this is me trying to control the situation because I'm out of control, and I noticed that when I didn't meditate in the morning, when I didn't have self-care, when I didn't sleep well, and then if I added sugar to that, and then I'm taking the kids on like 100 million errands, like 100%, 30 minutes after sugar, Dragon Lady comes out.
That's right.
And I think as a parent, to be able to, you know, do your own work and self-care so that you can show up for the parts of parenting that are inconvenient and that stretch you to be creative and patient in order to honor the individuality of your whatever child, you know, whatever process your child or adult is going through.
I didn't know that was an option, but I take that one, which is love and forgive yourself, and learn how to love yourself and let yourself off the hook. And like, that is the best thing you can do to support your kid. Yeah, for sure. Right. And I resonate too with what you said about the you know, your story just then with sugar. And I'll even play games with myself, like, I'll let you have sugar if you do all the things that support you. If you do your meditation, if you get good sleep, if you have good balance, if you're feeling good, and then you still want some sugar, okay, you can have some. But you can't have it when you're like, haven't been doing all those things, and you're feeling, and you want some sugar. Yeah. And so often, if I'm doing those things, then I just crave it a lot less. Yeah. Here comes the jerk. Like, there's no way anything good's going to come out of that. Right. So super fantastic. And, you know, for children or young adults or adults that are dealing with this or may still be on Ritalin or are dealing with the challenges of this and they haven't found their groove and they really are feeling alone or that there's something wrong or whatever, what advice would you have for a child, a young adult, or an adult that is dancing with this? What advice would you have for them? I think the same, you know, which is figure out a way to find some way to get visibility into it and be able to just observe it and become curious about yourself and become curious about how often you are acting deliberately, making a decision in the moment versus going off of programming and just, you know, doing the if-then statements that are programmed in our CPU, you know, and for me, it's like in each moment, I can either decide from this moment, and you say like thinking out of the box and, well, why do we have to do it this way? And to me, it's like, I love that. I know I'm in flow when I'm just like, I don't care if everyone does it that way. Like from this moment, I'm pretty sure I can do it that way and it's going to work out just fine. You know? And so I think anything that people can do to put them into a state of, you know, practicing some level of self-reflection or self-curiosity, not judgment, just interesting. You know, and let me figure out the things that help me feel better. Aim for feeling good. Right. That's it. But feeling good could be like, oh, sugar high, drunk. That's right. So let's clarify. You have to like, that's a good point. But, you know, aim for truly feeling good. Which is a deeper. That's right. And that's where, for me, it was ask yourself 30 minutes later, once I became committed to my highest commitment to myself is to feel good. And guess what? If you're selfish and you really focus on doing things that make you feel good, guess what makes you feel good is giving back, is supporting others, is showering love and gratitude on others, and doing things to help. That feels the best,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And so really you can just like, what makes you feel in love versus in fear, and start experimenting with figuring that out, because the sugar does not make you feel better. Like, I now know sugar does not make me feel better. It gives me a little dopamine hit. It tastes really yummy, but it does not make me feel better.
As is
In
the
no
case
cases.
with any addiction, anything, it's just this temporary thing. And so what I'm hearing for people listening or watching is get curious about all of your choices. Is this making me feel better? Whether it's my sleep, whether it's, you know, my Friday night habits, you know.
I mean, don't we just want to feel good?
Yeah.
Doesn't it sound good
Career.
to just feel great all the time?
Right. So getting real curious, you know, and like taking an inventory of life. Okay, so, you know, is this career feeling good, or is this what my dad wants me to do? You know, is this sport making me feel good, or is it actually hurting my knee? You know, is this substance, this habit, this lifestyle, this sleep pattern making me feel good? And I think one of the things that we hit along earlier is that passionate part where you said, wow, I'm lit up about this thing, is finding that.
Yes.
Is that if you're in a job or career or a lifestyle that is just like draining the life force out of you.
Doesn't make you feel good.
Yeah, get curious, get courageous, and be like, well, what does really light me up, and how can I move towards that?
Yeah. What lights you up?
Yeah, because then you're not going to have a problem with focus.
Just do that.
Do what you love.
That's it.
And also do you. You know, no one else can do you. And I love that.
You won't be lit up if you're not doing you.
Right.
It's as simple as that. Like, if you are truly lit up and feeling good, like, you're doing the right thing. Just keep doing those things.
Right. And this is where I really see, like, God, I'm so glad there's a Colin Guinn on this planet. Because you are paving the way with so much inspired technology and you know, going on The Amazing Race and showing how consciousness and cooperation and law of attraction and it is a way of being and a way of living, and that somebody who was, you know, bouncing off the walls and, you know, kind of destructive in some ways and volatile and angry can really turn their lives around to be in a, and I've witnessed your relationship with Christy, and it's like a healthy, conscious relationship that is continuing to evolve and grow. I've seen you and watched you as an amazing, patient, supporting, you know, supportive father that is providing a loving, inspiring, inviting, environment for both of your boys, and you know, with a company that is leading edge technologies and inspiring in inventions that are helping the new paradigm being created here. And so I can't imagine if you were, you know, playing small and sedating so much that your brilliance in all of those fields wasn't here. And I know that there's people listening or watching that are stuck in that. And so this podcast is for them.
Yes, it is.
Because if you can meditate.
When I hear people say, like, I can't meditate,
like, look,
bullshit.
If you can do it, anybody can do it. And, you know, if you can go from volatile to like learning how to be in your emotional body and being accountable and humble and not trying to be right and win, but actually be humble and cooperative and saying, well, when together, partner, when we win-win, it's not about me being right or me winning, because then we both lose. And so I really just want to acknowledge the role model that you are. And it doesn't mean that you or I have all of our shit together. Obviously, we're both still dancing with, you know, challenges and addictions and our, you know, our classroom of growth.
Right.
But I want to send this message out to those listening that are dancing some way with this issue, whether it's themselves or a loved one, that there is hope and there's ways, and you're a fantastic role model for that.
Yeah,
you know?
Thank you for prompting me to do this, because that's awesome. And I'm happy to chat with anyone anytime about it.
Yeah. And that was, I think part of that humility of asking for help and being not thinking that you know it all is part of this. And that's how we connected, is that you came to the Empowerment and Awakening weekend, and, you were a curious student. You didn't come thinking you knew everything, and you were so inquisitive and curious, and, just eating it up. And the choice to do a private session gave us the opportunity to really go deeper with that. And so I think that that's part of it as well, is the willingness to keep being the student, and asking and getting the help and support that we need to keep growing.
For sure. And thank you for supporting me. And for the Empowerment Awakening weekend was incredible experience, and getting to have some one-on-one time with you was, had a very lasting effect. It was very rewarding. So thank you so much.
Yeah. I'll always hear, like, dear soul brother, 100% commitment. And I feel like that's really mutual. There's this mutual support to keep reflecting, supporting, and inspiring each other to be our best. And isn't that the juice of like this time is so great? So, tell people where Guinn Partners is doing amazing things. So tell our audience where they can find you, and we'll be sure to have all of that in the show notes as well. But tell everybody where they can find you. Professionally,
GuinnPartners.com. That's where we help bring dreams to reality, essentially.
Yeah.
And then my only social that I do is Instagram at Colin Guinn.
Yeah.
And I'm on there, infrequently.
Yeah. With
I get a lot of DMs, and people go, "What happened? How'd you get from here to there? I struggle with this. What would you suggest?" And I take the time to respond to as many as I can.
Oh, good. And also there's ColinandChristy.com.
That's right.
People
that are in a relationship.
Right.
We did a free video series that just is kind of the lowest hanging fruit that has made the biggest impact and has had the biggest ROI in Christy and I's relationship, which, we all the bad things, like as bad as it could.
What not to do.
And we now have this beautiful, loving, intimate, sexual, sensual, supportive, co-creative relationship that I just can't even imagine not having. It just feels so good. Yeah. And so, we did a little free video series at ColinandChristy.com that
we'll include that.
Our thank you and our dharma to say, hey, thanks Amazing Race for showing us. Yeah. And here you go if anyone's interested.
Good. What we'll do in the show notes, we will make sure to have your company in case anybody has some inspiring and dreams and projects that they're wanting to manifest. Your company might be able to help with that, or know somebody that could, bring their visions to reality, their dreams to reality. And also we'll put ColinandChristy.com and offer that free gift to our audience listeners as well. And that is, and all your socials will have all of that.
Perfect.
And I'm so grateful for this connection and for your willingness to be really transparent and authentic about something that's, tender and that a lot of people are dealing with some aspect of this. And all of us are having attention deficit disorder as we are addicted to distraction. And so I think this is valuable for everybody listening. Good. And so you will be able to find Colin on all the places. Be sure to check the landing page for all of the free gifts that we talked about. And of course, you can find me at shamangelichealing.com, and the Empowerment and Awakening weekend and private sessions like we had the Shamangelic healing journey. I would
recommend it.
Oh, thank you.
All of it.
Thank you.
You're fire.
Oh, thank you.
I want to be you when I grow up. No caffeine, no sugar. She has so much energy. Like, how is she doing this?
Sometimes, it comes and goes, doesn't it? But thank you for that. And so I'm at shamangelichealing.com, and I would love to offer, for those people watching and listening, we talked about meditation, and so I want to give a free chakra balancing, kind of calming meditation for our listeners and viewers, and also 50% off my meditation course, so that way, like super easy tips, it's really affordable and something that everybody can do to kind of help just drop into stillness. So I'll give you 50% percent off of that. And also I felt inclined, since the one-on-one work is so powerful, to do $50 off if you want to come to Sedona and do a Shamangelic healing journey. And that's really deep 2-hour experience. So if you feel called to that, I've never offered that kind of thing before. And so if that calls to you, if you need some support in your process, in your journey in person, then come to Sedona and I'm happy to help you out. And always respecting and appreciating your time, and thank you for tuning in. I hope this was valuable for you. If you liked it, if you loved it, if there was something really that landed for you, please like it and share it with anybody that might benefit from our conversation. And thank you so much, and as always, follow your heart and your dreams, and thank you so much for tuning into the Shamangelic Healing Podcast. Thank you, Colin, for everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too, brother. Blessings.